Let's see. Here we go. Can you guys see me all right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. So it's we had a couple of delays for our community call. I don't know if, let's see how many people pop in, but maybe it makes sense to continue doing them on Saturdays at this time, just given that Wednesdays tend to be difficult for some people. I know, Dan, you've got, was it Thursdays for you that you have your rehearsals and stuff?
Yeah, we normally rehearse sort of 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. on a Thursday every week. So yeah, it's not always a great time for me.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, is this time is good for you?
Yeah, it's perfect for me.
Okay, wonderful. Nice. Okay, so I guess since we're recording, we can just kick things off. And the first thing I wanted to discuss is the new council. So I know that we've got Dan Zeitwerp, who's part of the existing council, along with myself and Chloe and Grace. Briefly, there has been some discussion about how DAOs are going to be structured in terms of the legal specifications regarding NEAR and regarding KYC, amongst other things in terms of jurisdictional as well as operational, in terms of how money moves, who money goes to, and how that is tracked regarding potential regulatory issues. So this has been kind of a conversation that's been going on. I want to share in the group chat a link for this discussion. This is a Dao Legal Discussion that has been set up on the NEAR wiki. And basically it goes over the discussion of certain issues regarding what a DAO is and how it exists legally, the various responsibilities of each member of the DAO depending on where they are located, because given that there's movement of crypto in the form of the NEAR currency, that it's important to keep in mind where people are from who are receiving NEAR for any activities that they do, and the potential liability in terms of regulation in your particular jurisdiction. So I think that everybody who's listening to this call or is on it should understand what that means for each of you, depending on where you are in the world. As a Canadian, then I understand the regulatory issues around cryptocurrency and receiving payment or funds in cryptocurrency. And I think that it's also important for everybody who is receiving funds to be aware of that. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice to anybody who's listening. But I think that this is something that we need to pay attention to, especially some of us here on this call are involved in other DAOs that are just sort of launching or are being or are fairly new. So I think it's also important to keep note, and also that there potentially needs to be somebody on the DAO who can do their KYC, which is essentially just legally registering yourself as your legal name, as a receiver or someone who could be liable for the funds that flow through in and out of the DAO. So given that I've already done KYC with NEAR as it stands, I personally will be taking liability for NxM. And I think that's something that I'm okay with. Given that I'm doing that, I need to kind of take a back seat from other DAOs. And I know that this impacts a few of us who are on this call, given that I'm also involved in onboarding DAO as well as DJ DAO to a certain capacity. And I think that just to limit my exposure to risk and liability, I'm personally only comfortable with taking that on for NxM. And given all of these new sort of issues, we'll call them, it has led me to also rethink what NxM will look like coming down the road. So that means that I will be speaking with legal from NEAR, as well as the NEAR grants team, because the initial plan, if you've looked at our sort of proposed changes to NxM, was to create a token for NxM. And I think that through doing so, it would mean that we would have, I guess, a token launch as an IDO, an initial DAO offering, which would mean that we could look at how we could fund the DAO through our own token, and to create value for this token by doing a token sale through, for example, Skyward or Nearpad, leaning towards Skyward in that case, and also setting up some DeFi initiatives around the NxM token. Now, I think that this is something that might take a bit longer, given the current issues with the legalities around a DAO. And what has come up through some of my conversation with Creatives DAO Council when we discussed this last week on Monday, was to look at how we can set up a legal entity, whether that's a limited license corporation, an LLC, or some sort of legal wrapper. There's been discussions around the jurisdiction for this legal wrapping, and NEAR is based, their legal operation is in Switzerland. So they have, if you're looking through this document, that the Dao Legal Discussion document that I shared, you'll see that they do recommend Switzerland as a blockchain-based LLC to set up there for regulatory purposes. There's also in the U.S., depending on where people are, there's Wyoming, which offers LLCs specifically for DAOs, and I believe Australia is opening up to potentially setting up DAOs, if I'm not mistaken. Skills, do you have any input on that in terms of MODA and how MODA is set up? Are they legally set up in Australia? If you do have any sort of insight in there, that would be it'd be cool to hear from you about that.
Honestly, I know it's based out of. I know it's registered legally. Actually, that's what delayed the launch of DAO. They had to tie all the legal ends before they kick off with the MODA DAO, and it took a long. It wasn't simple and easy, but they got it. They got around it, and now they're going live. But I don't have the exact legal details, but it's a very valid topic, and I'm glad that you guys are looking at this, because a lot of people starting DAOs not considering the legal complexities on the different geographical locations and the legalities in there. So I'm learning from this also, so it should be interesting to see how DAO is looking at it and what they're doing.
Yeah, and from what I've heard as well is that Astro DAO will be setting up a a built-in sort of KYC mechanism within the DAO framework itself. So that would make it easier for people setting up DAOs to then link those to a person who was willing to take responsibility. I think this has to do with the NeR Foundation in itself, and me personally, it's kind of like it's this it's a conundrum for me personally, because DAOs are decentralized, and the idea behind decentralization is not to have a centralized entity in like an LLC, for example, as the legal entity for the DAO. But then again, we're working within the framework of NeR. So it's not like we're independent because we're using the technology as well as receiving funds from NeR for funding our initiatives through NxM. So I think that this is something that we need to consider moving forward, and it might sort of delay some of the plans that we initially had. But on that note, the other things that we have scheduled for moving into the end of November and into December revolve around how community members will apply for grants from NxM for their projects, whether that's an event project or any other sort of music-related project. There will be 2 streams. I did mention this on the last call as well. There'll be 2 streams. There'll be the event stream for funding and the project stream for funding. So just keep that in mind for all future proposals that are going to NxM, to kind of follow those streams and to make sure that when you submit your proposal or when you create your proposal on the governance forum, that's identified there in the proposal. We've got a number of proposals, I think, already ready from members, but just to keep in mind, because I know that we do have some regular items that we have been funding, and each of those items will need to go through this new process. So that's to keep in mind for members who are catching the replay. Dan, do you want to maybe add to the legal, any of the legal discussion here, or any insights that you have in particular that maybe I've missed, or that you could add into the conversation?
Yeah, I've not really got a lot to add, Vandal. I mean, I've seen this coming down the line as well. I have wondered the question about how does a DAO, decentralized DAO, how does it interact with a physical business? You have to keep quite strict records as a business, as a registered company, and taking money off of a DAO, it's like, well, that's just coming out of nowhere. So it was going to happen. It had to happen. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain, but I don't have anything particularly add to what you've said so far about how it's going to happen. I think that NxM, my personal view is that it's actually, we've either got to decide to be more professional, which is a word we probably all hate, and I'll talk to you about this separately, perhaps, as part of the council discussions, more commercial even, and or we don't do it, because we can't stay as we are. It's one of the two, really. But I've got nothing specific to add to what you've said so far. Okay.
Thanks for that. And you're right. I think it's come to the point now, and maybe there's a reason for all of this happening, in terms of all the legal discussion around DAOs and jurisdiction and funding and so on. That will, I think, I'm worried that all of the stuff that we've been doing and all the work that we've been doing supporting the creative communities and facilitating onboarding and interaction with the various applications within the NeR ecosystem, whether that's minting NFTs on Mintbase, Paras, or engaging with AstroDAO for funding, whatever it might be that we're using. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of sad to see potentially that we would need to either cease operating as a DAO, but also the fact that we've spawned so many other DAOs from the inception of NxM and the various members who have come through the NxM sort of program, I guess, or probably like NxM program, to then develop their own DAOs, right? And I think that, taking this as a learning experience, I think is really important, and that's something that both Skills and I had this conversation earlier in our discussion about sort of how artists and musicians interact with DAOs and whether or not it's something that they would want to do regularly. And given the sort of complications that have come up, like in terms of additional work by creatives, that maybe this particular work isn't something that a lot of musicians would want to do. So for example, like the amount of admin work that it entails in terms of submitting your proposal, having it run through the DAO, knowing how to, A, use the near governance form, B, get your formatting and your template for your proposal correct, have it run through the funding council, whether that's NxM or Creatives DAO, and also the follow-ups and sort of what's expected in terms of accessing the funding. And then now with this additional hurdle, I guess, in terms of legality, and as well as understanding the responsibility around the distribution of these funds and how they're used. So it might end up being a case where it's too complicated, A, for us to continue, and B, for musicians to directly involve themselves in. And some of the solutions that we were looking at are sort of this layer of facilitation. And in my mind, I can kind of see this from looking back over sort of the introduction of social media platforms, for example, right? Like coming from a time where most musicians, did things analog. They would work with promoters, they would flyer events, they would invite people personally, there would be this sort of network. But when the technology came with social media, for example, YouTube or Facebook or different online methods of promoting your art and music, a lot of the creatives and the musicians that I knew were A, skeptical, and B, didn't want to take that leap to move to using social media or online methods of promoting their works. So there's always been a need for a facilitation layer. And I think that maybe this is something that we should focus on. And oftentimes it does sort of fall on the record label to sort of provide that role. And in sort of my accumulating lessons and experience in terms of how I envision sort of the future of DAO records, and seeing NxM as sort of a pilot program in a lot of ways as to sort of the plan around DAO records. I sort of don't, at the same time, I don't want to kind of reinvent the wheel or create two wheels instead of having one wheel. So in terms of me personally and what I've been looking to achieve over the next couple of months in terms of being able to really have NxM exist on its own without needing to rely on me personally as a spearhead to keep things going. This was sort of my mission in personally in terms of taking a step back, handing the reins over to other members of the community, allowing NxM to become what it might become. But now it's sort of like, okay, we're faced with this situation of, creating a legal entity, having all of these things set up and in place. So it does make things a bit more complicated for me personally, because of the direction that I had been planning to take after this with what we're doing with Dao Records. But at the same time, I think that there's potential learning experiences around that. So now that we've got Monish here, and so now we have Monish and Paul, who both had put in their application to join the NxM DAO Council. I'm going to share the post again in our chat for anybody who wants to have a look at it. I would like to, and I know that there was a bit of concern when it came to Monish in terms of his involvement as a musician, and I know that Stephen Trashlights had mentioned that in a comment, but to me personally, I don't think that that's so much of an issue. I think it's more of, like I had just been talking about, is people who are interested in keeping things going on sort of an administration level, because being a part of DAO councils it's I don't think it's mandatory that you're a musician, but I think that it's important to understand the objectives and the mission behind what we're doing with NxM and what we're trying to achieve. And I think from Monish being active in the creative guild leaders chats, having also been involved in the near NFT community, I have no objection to adding Monish on the council. And I think that I would like to use this opportunity here during this call to kind of not pass the vote, but at least we've got myself and Zeitwarp Dan, who are council members for NxM, to kind of give our feedback and our thoughts on that. And also Paul, who I've spoken to privately as well, who's been active in NxM activities and initiatives for quite a while. I'm confident as well in inviting him to the council. So maybe, Dan, do you want to just chime in on your thoughts on the addition of Monish and Paul to the NxM DAO Council?
Yeah, I tell you what I'm thinking, Vandal. It's all part of the same discussion as we've just had, which is that what is NxM going to actually look like in a month's time? And Grace, I understood from the chat we had in the week, would probably have to step down, but now I saw that she isn't going to. Obviously, there's the two of us, and Chloe's active, where as a council with us, so we can get things done. And I guess when you produced that mind map before of what NxM looks like, I think that's something that we probably need to work out exactly how many council we need. Because if we're going to be more professional, commercial, and actually act as a sort of as a layer, like promoter and record company, or something like that, which is all to be discussed. We need a management council as well as as a kind of board council, and I think that's all part of the discussion that I've been, we need to have, is what actually the structure going to look like. So whereas I haven't got anything specific to say about either Paul or Monish, I mean, they're probably more qualified than I am. I think what we really need to understand is what NxM is going to look like, whether it's going to be a council of 5 that's a board council, then a management council below that actually takes action for decisions. And because if we're going to be a registered entity, I think we need to think about that first. That's probably my feeling on it. And whether that's a council discussion or a community call discussion, I don't know. But that's probably my feeling, is before we start adding and then having to sort of change things afterwards, let's hammer out exactly what we want it to look like as a structure going forward.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is that, to me, it makes sense as somebody who is looking to take sort of a lesser role in NxM and the DAO, is that it would be good to have new eyes and ears in terms of determining that the outcome or the direction, and I think that could be to our advantage in a way, because these would be, for example, Paul and Manish would be people who would kind of take over and steer NxM in this new direction. And I think that it would be great to hear what they have to say and their thoughts around that as well. And I don't see any harm to it. I think it's also a good experience for them in the meantime, at least, going into December, and then looking at how we can figure things out during the month of December, because we still have a bit of like a treasury, like a surplus in the treasury, so we could technically probably survive into through to January as well, depending on how the funding is going to work. And I also know that Creatives DAO is already has enough in the treasury as well to kind of survive with funding the current number of guilds and DAOs as well for the next couple of months. So I think it's safe to say that we could continue on as is, at least through January, potentially into February, before really needing to make that decision. That's just my personal thoughts, and just in terms of being able to have fresh ideas, or fresh people in on the council who are active in that NxM community.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we're actually saying the same thing. I was just wondering what the layer is going to look like. Obviously, with Astro, we can have different levels, and if we are going to have, I mean, I'm all for having people who are committed and working hard and getting rewarded for it. I don't know whether that's council or management. Do you know what I mean? It's whether it's whether we envisage that kind of change, or whether it's all just one big council. I don't really have any strong opinion on it. I'm just thinking that we've got a kind of, it's not an existential threat, but it's one of those kind of, like, we need to think, if we're going to organise and be an entity, everyone's got to be happy being on the council of that entity and understanding what that entails. And that can be a different role to people actually running NxM. I mean, you can effectively sit back as a chairman on the council, or that kind of equivalent role in real life world. That's my only reservation is I don't actually know what the management and council structure, or management and board structure of NxM is going to be, if we're going to go with a more professional commercial approach to actually doing stuff in the real world, or linking up with the real world. So that's my only reservation. But it's not, as I said, I don't feel strongly about it. That's my only feeling, is that by all means get people in, they can be part of that discussion as well. But that's, if you're asking me if this was just us talking amongst the council, I'd be saying, let's be sure which way we're going to go before we do it. But it doesn't matter really, because we can sort that out as we go along. So I don't feel strongly about it, but that's my feeling, is how it should go. Okay,
awesome. I would like to also hear from Paul and Manish as well, just on their thoughts on it. In a way, I'm kind of speaking on your behalf or for you to a degree, but it would be great to hear from you guys. So please do. Paul?
So yeah, hi guys. Personally, I just read a few days ago this post that you just shared with us about the legal discussion, and yeah, it's quite big surprise for me. I wouldn't think about that, I don't know, a month ago. So yeah, that's something that it's gonna change a lot, I guess. So yeah, I have some vision about the NxM, and I think that we can do a lot better things and a lot better initiative and events. But yeah, it requires a lot of funding, and I see a lot of musicians about, let's say, on the Facebook groups, let's say, yeah, even in Gdynia in here, that some sort of are doing really dope stuff. They're doing really good music, and they just can't, I don't know, can be seen by the wider audience. And you spoke about record company, record label, or something like this. I think that NxM could be some sort of new environment in entertainment. And yeah, I would love to, I don't know how to, I would love to be a part of something like that where we can help a lot of musicians to show their work, their music, and I don't know, record and do some events, some stuff like that. And I believe that with the power of the blockchain, we can do that actually. But yeah, I have a lot of ideas what we can implement, some new events for the producers, for example, and I hope we can manage through the bit DAO. But personally, I think that NxM could be something like a DJ DAO or the producer DAO. But yeah, we just need more funds to do something like that. And as you spoke, yeah, it's something. What will happen in the future month? Yeah, it's really something that I would like to see. And yeah, I don't know. So let's work. Let's see what's it gonna be. And yeah, and this DAO legal discussion. So at the moment, you will do the KYC vandal. So you will be legal responsibility. And if something will happen, I don't know. Let's say some kind of fraud. I'm not saying that it will happen. So you'll take your legal responsibility. Am I right? It's some sort of
Exactly. I would be liable
okay.
for
Okay.
any
So
sort of legal issues
so
surrounding funds.
okay.
Yeah.
So now it's we are now professionals. Yeah. It's not about the fun. It's we are now the professional. Okay. So yeah. So I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Personally, I'm really hyped about that. I'm really bullish for the NxM and all stuff that is going. And yeah, I want to create something. I want to build some community. But yeah, let's see how it's gonna be with the legal structure and some sort of funding, some grants, because yeah, we have a lot of nice and cool ideas to implement, but yeah, just people don't want to do something for free because everybody has their time. So yeah, that's all for me. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Just to add on to what you said, Paul, before hearing from Manish, is I think that we're at that stage now, and this was the part of the purpose of proposing these changes to NxM, is so that we can go directly to near grants as opposed to going through Creatives DAO, given that there are limitations in terms of funding from Creatives DAO. And in which case, if we are going to proceed with doing things and taking things to the next level with NxM, it makes the most sense to then do what you suggested. Put the Beat DAO under NxM and the DJ DAO under NxM, and have them kind of work as specific collectives for those areas that are then funded by NxM as opposed to funded by creatives, DAO separately outside of NxM. And that's something I think makes sense moving forward. So it does mean that we would need to then acquire a larger amount of funding. And then, of course, in order to do that, that would mean that we would need to set things up with proper legal entity and take those steps. So before kind of carrying on, I would like to invite Monish to just say hi and give his thoughts.
Hey, hi, Wendell. Hey, everyone. This is Manish here, and thank you, Wendell, for watching me for this position. And I would personally feel like NxM is going on in a very right direction right now. And my thoughts over NxM would be like to add more collaborations, bring in more collaborations with NxM Music into the council, into the NxM, and bring it out to the people, as we are already in Creatives DAO. We bring more creative artists, like creative collaborations within the NxM Music right now. So there, like as a community, I have seen like there is another guild called Minting Music by Ryan Tyler. Like they're so we could like pitch in with them, and we could like have a better collaboration to add more value to our whatever the thing that we already do. So there are like a certain perspective with myself with NxM right now, beyond the funds and stuff, actually. So the first thing would be the collaboration, and the second thing would be the so speaking of collaboration, are also there are lots of guilds that there are based on with music and with NFTs, and this could be a better chance. And I don't know, like this is how the world is gonna be, like world is gonna program right in a couple of years. Like everyone is gonna like pay royalty for the music from the independent artist. Like, so like we collaborate people, we collaborate artists, and we take the value of NxM into the next level. That is what I had in my mind as a council for the first one. And speaking of funds, yes, I know like we are bit but stepping forward, and whatever like Vandal said, like if we could progress in such way, like yeah, I know like we can survive in a very long haul, and we can have a pretty much like everything. uh, that's how Vandal I got like.
Thank you, Monish. Appreciate that. And I do agree. And I think that it's important that, you know, we continue to explore the various collaborations within the ecosystem with the other DAOs and guilds. And I think that that's something that we've only just started to do, you know, with our collaboration with Muti, and most recently this month for November with Kudo. So that's I'm happy to hear that, and I know, Monish, you are also involved in some of the other communities within the near ecosystem and the guild ecosystem as well. So I think that would be a good strength in terms of having you on the council to be able to help to facilitate those things. And this is what I, you know, what I felt is important in terms of how we grow as a guild and DAO, is to not necessarily just have musicians, you know, as part of the council, but also to have people who understand the ecosystem and who offer, you know, a bit more than on the musical side, I would say. So I think that's a good plus. And I think the next step would be then to submit both Monish and Paul to submit your reply to the open call for NxM DAO Council position. Just copy your reply. So yeah, I think you would just scroll to it, and then you would see in the URL bar, it should then have your comment come up, as a number at the end of the URL. So if you could copy that URL, and then you would go to the AstroDAO, and then you would submit a proposal, and that would be, I guess. We may have to do this internally. I think it looks like the only proposals you can create now are payout proposals and bounty proposals. So I guess it does make the most sense for us then to submit these proposals internally. So I will be happy to do that on both of your behalves, and then of course for the council members then to make a decision to place their votes of in favor or against. And then if it passes the addition of the new council, then you will be automatically added to the group, the council member group. Currently on our AstroDAO, there are only two groups. One is the all members and the other group is council. And as Dan was mentioning, if we are to take this next step for NxM, then it would make sense then to create various groups in terms of the roles that they would play as like a board, and not just the AstroDAO DAO guild or council, but also the LLC and the actual company board as well. So yeah. So that said, I'm happy to then submit those proposals on your behalf today, and we can then push it to the rest of the council to vote on, to bring you in or not bring you in. So that said, I kind of want to move on from this conversation and open the floor to anybody who wants to ask any questions or to offer any updates on what they're doing and how it relates to NxM. It would also be cool to hear from Justin, because I know C1, we've also spoken about cross collaboration with NxM, but also where you're sitting in terms of the legal aspects of the DAOs and so on, and if you have any insights.
Yeah, man. Thanks for calling on me. How's it going, everybody? Basically, it's so interesting. I mean, the times and how things have been changing so drastically in the ecosystem. Obviously, you guys are familiar with the marketing DAO proposal that we've submitted, which we're basically unsure of how that's going to go, just based on those changes. I think, in terms of the NxM C1 collaboration, for having NxM artists release on C1 Store with a portion of the percentage going back to NxM DAO, that is all dependent on whether or not we can get the marketing funds, because one store is, basically the same as another store. It's just a matter of this like marketing push that we can put into it. That would be beneficial for the collaboration to take place. I think one of the positive things for C1 is the fact that we've always kind of aimed to be a legal entity. So I was dealing with the legal guild, Annabelle and Santiago, for a while now. And we've been discussing opportunities and options for C1 to legally register as an NGO in Canada. Which would be beneficial for obviously this kind of a situation that's rolling out. It's going to come with its own challenges, and but that, I think, if we want to continue to navigate properly and have access to the resources that NEAR and the ecosystem provide, then that's kind of the necessary move that we have to make. which I think would open up the possibilities to secure that funding for the big marketing push that we have planned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's how I would see it as well, right? It's like if you're going to go to those lengths to basically create that legal entity, the business, the nonprofit, then it does make sense to do it, to secure a larger amount of funds from here to move things forward. So definitely, yeah. So that's good to hear that you're already kind of pursuing that direction.
I think for with the updates to Mintbase as well, it's going to be extremely beneficial to have a legal operation because of the credit card payments that they're going to be offering to these kind of entities. So you can actually, although we are going to be minting through the near protocol, we're going to be operating within near protocol. The DAOs are going to be near protocol. We can also start to accept fiat, and I think that that's kind of cool as well.
I don't know if others are aware of that yet, and this was a discussion that well, actually, previously when Mintbase was more active or only active on Ethereum, they already had Stripe implemented for some of the stores on there. One of them being our DAO Records store, and people were already at that point with being on Ethereum were able to purchase NFTs with fiat using their credit card through Stripe. So it's good to also be aware that yes, Mintbase is looking to offer that option again to stores, and that could be something. Well, I mean, it would. Make sense to have, well, you would have to have a business, a registered business, then to be that entity that would collect the funds, essentially. So that's what I had done with DAO Records with my business, is set it up that way. But, like Justin was saying, it does make sense if we are moving forward with taking things to the next level as a legal entity, and in that case, to be able to take advantage of that fiat purchasing option through Mintbase and Stripe. So it's great you mentioned that, Justin.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anybody else who wants to jump in and maybe give an update or mention anything that they have going on?
Word. I got a quick update. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Vandal. I hope you guys are doing well. I've been just more in the listening ear as I'm a new member in the NxM, like trying to see what's going on and with everything that I'm doing on the side with Emanate and Monadao and all the other activities in the Web3 that we're doing, how we can synergize and how we can add value. This month I was involved in a couple of things. I just want to give you guys an update. Some things fell off, some things are still going. I was supposed to do a track for the mixtape with Kane, for the mixtape that was being worked on. Unfortunately, Kane lost one of his best friends or something, and has been off for a while. So after speaking to Steven, we decided to, because we cannot, we're not going to do it. We're going to drop off that track. So I'm not going to be part of that. There was another track that Steven has done with Kane. He sent it to me before to add cuts, and I did the cuts, but apparently Steven lost his hard disk, so we cannot mix masters. So I did the cuts for nothing, but it was dope. I was really looking forward to get it out, but I don't think it's gonna go out. This is on that part. Other than that, I did my first gig with the DJ DAO on the playground with Netu. He was leading on that. That went well. We did the GeckoCon event. I'm not sure if this is NxM. This is, I think, related mostly to DAO Records, which is the event. But yeah, the only thing that's left I need to do for next month, I'm working with Sleazy Moss on for the mixtape track, which is already wrote the lyrics. He recorded it. He's supposed to send it to me, and I'm gonna start chopping it off and having it ready for the month. That's about it from my part as an update and what's been happening and what happened so far. And I'm very interested to hearing because I'm learning a lot. You guys are opening my eyes on a lot of interesting stuff that I'm learning. So thanks. Kudos to all of you.
Thanks, Skills. Appreciate you. Dan, did you want to jump in there? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, I only wanted to ask really the deadline for proposals. You should be telling people what that is and how they're gonna be sort of dealt with by the council. Is it the 25th? Am I right?
25th, we open up to accepting proposals from the 25th to the 31st or the 30th, depending on how many days are in the month. This month is 30 days, so until the 30th. And then from the 1st to the 3rd, it's time for the council to go over the proposals and to see which ones will receive funding based on the funds available. So yeah, the 25th, we will start accepting proposals. I mean, feel free if you already have ideas. I know there were people who've already been preparing their proposals, and the earlier you do it, I think the better it is, because then it gives time to ask for feedback as well as to just fine tune things, because not everybody is at an opportunity to use the governance forum or understand, say, the template or the format in terms of submitting your proposal. There is a guide for that, the NxM event grant guide. I will share that again in the chat. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm finishing up the guide for projects. So that will be the accompanying guide with the NxM events grant application, which is the stream 1, and then the projects grant application will be stream 2. It will pretty much cover the same things that were covered in this particular guide. So that's here in the chat. So feel free to have a look at that. This will guide you in terms of how to submit your proposal and what are the expectations and what are sort of the tips and other things, guidelines that you need to look at when you prepare your proposal. So just do keep in mind that we will be collecting all of these submissions and sort of opening them up on the 25th of each month as we proceed. If we're going to last into the new year and so on as NxM. But yeah, the 25th things will open up, and then until the end of the month. So this is going to close on the 30th at end of day, probably in Eastern time, at midnight Eastern. I think makes the most sense, although of course we'll be flexible in that regard. And then just a couple days for the council to go over submissions and decide on who will receive the funding. So I hope that answers that question.
Just wanted to clarify it, go through it for everyone.
Awesome. Thanks again for clarifying or getting us to clarify that, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're almost at the hour mark. Is there anybody else who wants to sort of offer an update or ask a question before we close the call? Okay, so I'll take that as a no. We've always got, we have our chat still, so you can feel free to use the chat and to share thoughts and share things and NxM related stuff, and also ask questions moving into our December round of funding. I don't know if people have been paying attention to the charts, but NEAR currently is floating at around $9.40. which is down significantly from the previous highs of upwards of $11. It did kind of get under $9 for a minute. I hope if those who are supporting NEAR were interested, it would have been a good time to scoop up some cheap NEAR, like I did. But yes, we're looking at currently $9.40 USD per NEAR at the moment. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining the call. This call is recorded, and it will be available. It will be posted on our NxM YouTube channel as a video and shared with everybody in the group on Telegram, and I'll also share it on Twitter and so on for everybody to look at. So that's about it. Thank you so much. This is Vandal signing off as the sun goes down over here. And thanks again for joining us.
All right.
Thank you.
Peace. Respect.
All right,
All
everyone.
right.
Take care.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, mate.
Bye.